you've screamed at your kids. Not the firm voice, not the measured correction. The real scream. The one that ripped out of you like something feral, and for a second, maybe two, your toddler looked at you like you were a stranger. And then the silence afterwards was worse than the scream. Here's what I want to unpack today. First, what is actually happening inside your brain when rage takes over, because it is not what you think. Second, what that rage is doing to your relationship, slowly, in the background, in ways neither of you are talking about. And third, the part that might change everything. Suppressing that anger is making it worse, not better. Worse. Stay with me on that one. Let's start with the brain, because something happened to yours that no one told you about. In 2017, a team of neuroscientists led by Hoekzema published a study in Nature Neuroscience that showed pregnancy causes measurable reductions in grey matter volume in regions governing social cognition and emotional processing. The changes were so consistent, so reliable, that researchers could look at a brain scan and correctly identify whether the person had been pregnant or not. Every single time. And those changes persisted for at least 2 years after birth. Your brain literally restructured itself to keep your baby alive. It rewired for hypervigilance, for threat detection, for the ability to wake at the smallest sound and respond before you're even conscious. That is extraordinary. But it comes with a cost, because the same system that makes you exquisitely sensitive to your child's distress also makes you exquisitely reactive to everything else. Now, stack sleep deprivation on top of that rewired brain. A University of Warwick study tracked over 4,000 parents and found that in the first 3 months after birth, mothers slept roughly 1 hour less per night than before pregnancy. Fathers lost about 15 minutes. And here's the part that stings. Sleep satisfaction does not fully recover for 6 years. 6 years. Matthew Walker's lab at UC Berkeley put sleep-deprived subjects in brain scanners and showed them emotionally provocative images. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, showed 60% greater activation in sleep-deprived subjects compared to rested ones. But the real finding was structural. Sleep deprivation severed the functional connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The brake pedal disconnected from the engine. So when you lost it at your kid this morning, it was not a character flaw. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that plans and regulates and holds it together, was literally offline. The rational, patient version of you was neurologically unavailable. That is not an excuse. That is a diagnosis of a system under impossible strain. Now this is where it gets ugly. A 2023 study published in Sex Roles surveyed 65 American mothers about their experience of rage. 86% reported physiological symptoms during episodes. Racing heart, clenched jaw, muscle tension so severe it hurt. 91% said their child's behaviour was the trigger. But the number that should stop you cold is this one. 78% experienced guilt after the rage passed, and 77% felt they were failing at what they called ideal mothering. Let that sit for a moment. Nearly 8 in 10 mothers who raged at their kids believed it meant they were bad mothers. Not struggling mothers. Not exhausted mothers. Bad ones. Brené Brown spent 6 years interviewing hundreds of women about shame. She found that motherhood was one of 12 distinct categories where women experienced shame most intensely, and she drew a critical distinction. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt can motivate change. Shame paralyses everything it touches. So here's the cycle. You rage. Then you feel guilty. Then the guilt curdles into shame. Then the shame increases your baseline stress. Then the elevated stress lowers your threshold for the next rage episode. The shame doesn't prevent the rage. It accelerates the next one. Christine Wu, a researcher at the University of Victoria, found that mothers who directed their anger inward, who swallowed it and blamed themselves, experienced longer-lasting, more intense anger episodes and were more likely to report thoughts of self-harm. The suppression didn't protect anyone. It made the mother sicker and the family less stable. And while all of this is happening inside her, something is happening to the person standing 3 feet away, watching. Picture this. It's 7:30 on a Tuesday. The toddler has thrown dinner on the floor for the second time. She snaps. Not the careful correction, the snap. And he freezes. Not because he's judging her, because he doesn't know what to do. He wants to help. He knows he should help. But the rage is so sudden and so foreign to the person he thought he knew that he just stands there. And she reads that stillness as confirmation. He thinks she's losing it. He thinks she's a bad mother. He's going to remember this. The Gottman Institute tracked 130 couples from before pregnancy through the first 3 years of parenthood and found that 67% experienced a significant decline in relationship satisfaction. The decline was steeper and more sudden than at any other life transition the lab had ever measured. Not moving, not job loss, not illness, having a baby. And here's the wrinkle that makes it worse. Yu's research found that parenting remains, in her words, a highly gendered role. Regardless of whether both parents worked, mothers bore primary responsibility. And one of the most consistent triggers for maternal rage was resentment toward a partner's retained freedoms. Using the bathroom alone. Sleeping through the night. Leaving the house with nothing but a wallet and keys. She resents him for what he still has. He resents her for the anger he doesn't understand. And neither of them says a single word about it, because they're both too tired and too afraid. Here is the thing nobody tells you about rage in a relationship. It is not the explosion that does the damage. It is the silence that follows. The hours of not talking about it. The careful performance of normalcy while both people are privately rewriting the story of what just happened. She tells herself she's broken. He tells himself he's useless. And the gap between them grows by 1 more millimetre every single time. But here's what Yu found that reframes all of this. When mothers actually expressed their rage, even imperfectly, even through yelling, something unexpected happened. Partners recognised the distress. They offered help. In some cases, the relationship got stronger after the repair. When mothers suppressed their rage to protect the relationship, partners had no idea anything was wrong. Support was less likely to be offered. Needs stayed unmet. And the anger didn't dissipate. It calcified. If you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Maternal rage is not a breakdown of care. It is a response to the absence of care. That line comes from Lale Amiria, a professor at York University who studied maternal anger across racial and cultural lines. She found that anger marked the moments when systems of support had failed. It was not impulsive. It was cumulative, building through repeated dismissal and the demand to remain calm in the face of harm. Your rage is not evidence that you are failing your children. It is evidence that the conditions you are parenting under are failing you. A brain restructured for hypervigilance. a body running on years of fragmented sleep. A culture that tells you to be patient, be gentle, be present, while offering almost nothing in return. Alexandra Sachs, a reproductive psychiatrist, gave this process a name: matrescence, the developmental transition of becoming a mother, as disorienting and identity reshaping as adolescence. Her 2017 New York Times essay on the subject became the most read article in the paper's family section that year, because millions of mothers read it and thought, that is me. There is a word for what is happening to me, and it is not a disease. Rage lives inside matrescence the same way mood swings live inside puberty. Not as a symptom of pathology, but as a feature of transformation. The problem is not that you feel rage. The problem is that you feel rage and nobody around you recognises it as the signal that it is, because that is what your rage actually is. A signal. Au's framework calls it a bid for social support and resource allocation. Your nervous system is telling the people around you, clearly and loudly, that it cannot function alone under current conditions. So the next time it happens, and it will, try this. Do not apologise for the feeling. Apologise for the delivery if you need to, but not for the feeling. Then say what you actually need, not in the moment. After. When the cortisol has cleared and your prefrontal cortex is back online. Say it to your partner. Say it to your mother. Say it to someone. Because the data is clear. The mothers who said it out loud got better. The mothers who swallowed it got worse. Every single time. You are not a bad mother for feeling rage. You are a tired, neurologically overwhelmed human being whose brain was literally remodelled to protect a child. And sometimes that protection system misfires. That is biology, not character. The shame wants you to believe you are alone in this. You are not. 31% of mothers in one study reported intense anger at clinical levels, and more than half of them were not even depressed. They were just angry, and they had every right to be. If this video found you at the right moment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more of this. And if you're the partner standing there watching it happen and not knowing what to do, your video is coming.